All right, welcome to episode 129, everybody. On this episode, we are going to talk about the song Red Lenses from Grace Under Pressure. So, as always, to start out with, we're going to read from song by song, but instead of hearing me drone on, you guys get to hear Rob talk so eloquently about it. So, Rob, why don't you take it away on the song by song book?
All right, here we go. Red Lenses. With the title and lyric uniquely printed all in lowercase, it seems Rush were attempting to make clear that this song was an unusual one. By far the most esoteric lyric on the album, Red Lenses is a jazz-infused stream of consciousness that paved the way for the sound Rush would later perfect with their next album. With the bass and drums holding close to a rigid composition, this piece is clearly influenced by much of the contemporary electronic music of the era, particularly the bridge section that begins the second half of the song. This section, the style of which had been unprecedented in a Rush album, features an atmospheric synthesizer, which underlies a Neil Peart solo of drums and tuned percussion. The lyric, one of the most interesting and unusual aspects of the song, was discussed by Peart shortly after the album's release. I can take someone like T.S. Eliot, who has influenced me greatly over the last few years, and realize that what he was doing was just throwing so many images at you all the time that you were left dizzy. But at the same time, you were left with something. You were stepping into another dimension. So I used that idea on a song like Red Lenses from the Grace Under Pressure album. I tried to construct a series of ongoing images that just came at you. The color red was the theme of it, but I twisted it in so many ways. It was the hardest thing I ever wrote because I was trying not to say anything, and each line was saying something, but at the same time it was trying to be so obscure and so oblique about the way I went around saying it on purpose. It seems confounding, but in the end you're left with something. T.S. Eliot's poetry is the same way to me. At the end of it, I don't really know what I've read, but it comes back to me. When I think of the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock or The Wasteland, I can't quote lines from them, and I can't say I understand everything that was said, but they move me. This track is a strange but vital Rush song that helped develop the band's songwriting, production style, and indeed much of Peart's future live drum solos.
All right, awesome, excellent. Yeah, so let's kind of get into talking about the tune. I think let's just start with the intro. Well, I guess there's really not much of an intro, is there? It kind of gets right into the lyrics. So let's just kind of start there. All right. So the first piece of the lyric, I see red, it hurts my head. I guess it must be something that I read. So Rob, why don't you kick us off on that one?
Yeah, it's one of those few songs that Geddy kind of kicks it off on his own vocally. There's been songs that the bass kind of kicks it off. And my impression of this part, even though it's so short, getting into the tune, it just sets the whole vibe of the tune. This, like it was mentioned in the song by song, the very jazzy element of it. And lyrically, impression-wise, I felt it was like something that I guess maybe made Neil angry. There was a lot of stuff going on at the time, a lot of tragedy, a lot of current events happening while they were recording the record. So I took it as I see red. It's just something that was read in a newspaper because they would get the papers every day at the studio and read before Neil would start writing lyrics and whatnot. So I guess he might have been mad about something he read in the paper. So that's as simple as I can think of as an impression lyrically for this part.
Yeah, that's a good
playing on the red and red immediately too, right? So it's like right there, red, and just like you said, it sets the theme for the whole thing. He's gonna be playing with words right out of the gate.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Anything else on that piece of lyric before we move to the next one?
I love what he read before, that he reads it and he didn't really say anything, but he said a lot. That's what this song is perfect. This song is perfect for that. It means nothing, but it means everything.
Yes, true. That is true. All right. Okay, the next lyric. It's the color of your heartbeat, a rising summer sun, the battle lost or won. The flash to fashion and the pulse to passion feels red inside my head. The truth is often bitter, left unsaid. I see red, red, thinking about the overhead, the underfed. Couldn't we talk about something else instead? Dave, do you want to go ahead and start this one?
Yeah, the baffling spelling of color there with a U. First off, I don't know what it's doing. Of course, being Canadian.
British
yeah,
influence.
Right. No, I was just watching your Kid Gloves video, and finally sitting down and like reading the lyrics for the first time in a long, long time, and truth is often bitter, left unsaid, right?
Yeah.
So playing again with the words, I always thought he was, and truth is often better left unsaid, because that's what he's implying, but he's actually saying truth, bitter, the bitter truth, and then he's playing off that. Again, like a lot of play here. Said red, red. What? Right? Like again, he's just throwing out these words and these visions. The battle lost or won, blood red, right? Rising summer sun, color of your heartbeat. And then I think the one that got me was the thinking about the overhead. And I don't know if that's like thinking about like going red in a like accounting, right? You're in the red. So thinking about the overhead of something is that, and then the underfed. Again, that reading the news, I think you're spot on, Rob, with he's reading the news, right? He's angry about the news. Couldn't we talk about something else instead? All this bad news, and he's just frustrated.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I also thought that the line was, the truth is often better left unsaid. I did not realize it was bitter, because it's been years since I've actually read this lyric sheet.
Exactly.
For sure. But yeah, seems like a huge play on words, a huge,
Well, think about it. Think about the line. Truth is often bitter left unsaid. That's so true.
Yeah.
That's how
really
he
is.
was. With the realist, that's how he felt.
Yeah, that's for sure. Absolutely. All right. Anything else on that piece, or shall we move to the next one?
We can move on, but if you think about it, if you listen to the very, very, very end of the song, thinking about the overhead, the underfed, and at the end of the song, he does the overfed, the underread.
Yes, that's
if
true.
You listen to the very, very, very last, and Getty starts to go off on that, and he says the overfed, the underread.
Yes, yeah,
which I thought very interesting.
And at the very end, he has that, think about it, think.
Yep.
Yeah,
my favorite part.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. All right, let's get to the next one. Let's talk. I want to talk about the end part, because it's kind of really improv to me when we get there. All right, so the next set of lyrics, we've got Mars on the horizon, says the National Midnight Star. It's true. What you believe is what you are. A pair of dancing shoes. The Soviets are the blues, the Reds, under your bed, lying in the darkness, dead ahead. Vivian, do you want to start with this one?
Well, the fact that they use National Midnight Star, if anybody's old enough to remember the National Midnight Star, when there was no internet and you had to email to get the newsletter, the Rush newsletter, I think, yeah. Yep. I think that's beautiful. That's perfect. Tabloid, red, yeah. What you believe is what you are. A pair of dancing shoes. The Soviets are the blues. It's very strange. It's very strange. It doesn't mean anything, but if you read it together, it's just his anger, his emotions going back and forth.
Yeah, Grace Under Pressure was recorded and released at sort of the height of the Cold War as well, and at least in the United States and in Canada, well, especially the United States, I don't know about Canada, but for sure here, there was a lot of fear about the Soviets, and I kind of wonder if that's how that snuck into here when he says the Soviets are the blues.
The blues, yeah. The
Yeah.
blues make you red. Yes, the blues make you angry, and upset and enraged.
Yeah.
He's going back to that again, that reading the news, right? He's read something that's made him go red.
Don't we all do that now? You look at the news, you read the news, it makes you, blood red.
I love it's true, sort of like the gang vocals.
Yeah.
That was like a Rupert Hine, trademark that was a lot on the later records, but like kind of there not for the first time, but it became much more prominent in the 80s and 90s.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think also I believe he does it here. So I mean the part that Neil plays is extremely rhythmic. Using acoustic drums and his brand new electronic Simmons pads, and I hear some cowbells and stuff in there too because he got rid of a lot of other percussion in there, and how he switched back and forth between your standard timekeeping and that rhythmic pattern, depending on what section we're in. I always thought that was pretty neat.
I do love the rhythmic pattern. I love the electronic drums in this because there's not many pieces that he's using, but it makes such an impact. It's quiet, but it's not quiet. It's like a psychedelic thing. Not. He's not using a full set. There's no crashing cymbals. There's no hi-hat. He's just, it's very, very simple, but very intricate.
Yeah. When he's on that, it's a lack of cymbals there, just kind of using the drums. Dave, were you going to mention something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, he does this, he goes through this period of like, kind of like, I call it his drum machine Neil, right? Where he builds these drum machine like rhythms, and he can do whatever he wants, but it's clear that like this becomes a new tool in his toolbox he always talked about. And there's Red Sector A, The Enemy Within. Obviously, that's a huge part of the song, right? He's just kind of doing these polyrhythms around the kit, and in my world, I see this being the impetus for the entire song. This thing that he's doing. He's got these brand new, like you said, these brand new Simmons cymbals. He's kind of got this new kit set up, and he starts messing around with it. Alex is not really in the song at all, right? He's really there, and I could see Geddy just playing around with these synths. He's got a little synth line and kind of jams on the bass, and it almost feels like
voice. Geddy's voice also works with the song.
Yeah, exactly.
It does. It does.
Yeah, and it's just so prominent, and
it's funky.
Exactly. So
and
I just think
plays on
fantastic.
The jazz part. He plays on the. I love it.
Yeah, he's that drum machine rhythm though. If kind of pay attention to what he's doing, he's got this whole thing that's different and new, and he will go and exploit that in a lot of ways. It's great.
Yep, that's true. Yeah, awesome. All right. Well, after that, we've got this instrumental break section, which has the, some of the those rhythms we're talking about, and Neil actually changes his rhythm in that instrumental break section too.
And then Geddy's popping bass. Oh,
yeah.
So good.
And to me, a lot in this song, and while I think Alex's part is a little bit more in the background. It's not absent, but it's just not really in the forefront. I think it's really Neil's drums and Geddy's bass that stand out for me throughout this song. Yeah.
I swear, this is something I discovered as a teenager a long time ago. At 3:17, you listen to it, like when that break drops out, and he's and it feels like you can hear the room, right? Like you're in the room. It's just Neil doing his thing, and I swear it's right at 3:17. I've always sworn this. I could be totally wrong. It sounds like there's someone yelling, like either encouraging him, like it feels like there's this shout from the other room. There's this other sound, and it's hidden in there. And now I want you all to go, wait, who's watching this? I want you to go listen to it 100 times, like really, really cranked up in your headphones, and see if you can hear it. That's a thing that I've thought has been there forever. Obviously, with digital, with CDs and now with streaming, it's easier to hear. I don't know. I could be making it up, but I can't listen to the song without feeling like at that moment there's someone like yelling at me like, oh, or something like that. I don't know.
Could be.
Maybe we'll get that part at the next Strombo show. He'll reveal a little bit more.
Right.
Like Alex did with Witch Hunt. Maybe we'll get some of that.
I had this record on cassette, and I used to throw newspapers delivering, and I had the earphones on, and there is something in there. It could have been Alex just goofing around. I wouldn't put it past him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely remember hearing something like riding the bike and throwing papers. I was delivering newspapers as a kid, and the Walkman, I remember hearing something too. I was like, I couldn't put my finger on it, but probably like you said, Dave, hearing it on disc, on digital, is probably a lot easier to grab it.
Yeah.
I listened to it like 5 times before we came here because I was like, no, I'm going to crack the code on this. And now, what we got to do is, get Pro Tools and slice it all up. It's still there.
Yeah.
And I could see something. They goofed around in the studio a lot, so it could just be goofing around.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to listen to it too because I don't.
I had to figure out exactly where it was. It's at 317. It kind of
317. Okay.
Yeah, it's right
now,
317.
all of us, once
like
the show's over, all of us are going to go listen to it 1,000 times and try to figure it out.
All right. I've made my
right.
imprint on the show already.
Yeah.
Love it. And thank you, Rob. All right. I see you on. I was listening to Grey's Under Pressure on that same paper route.
Oh yeah. All right.
Yeah,
So
I had the cassette.
let's keep going here. All right. So the next lyric, and the mercury is rising. The barometer starts to fall. You know what gets to us all? The pain that is learning and the rain that is burning. Feel red. Still, go ahead. You see black and white, and I see red, not blue. Rob, do you want to start this one?
Yeah, I think there was an episode, Deep Dive, that talked about this album, and this part of the tune is probably, for me, it seems to be the most direct, like lyrical part of the tune. Like it seems to be a bit more explicit on what it is, where now it's like, this bubbling up of the anger. There's a climax, and of course there's a climax in the tune also. It arrives at a peak. So I think the idea of what was going on, it's kind of weighing on us, right? It's whatever was happening at the time, even now, current events, whatever, weigh on us. So even back then, everything that was going on for the band was weighing on them, trying to get a producer, et cetera, et cetera. The weather, loading in, all these things that were going on with the band, changing for the weather, et cetera, et cetera. But the idea too with the rain that is burning, the acid rain, right? That was a big problem in Canada, upstate New York, areas around that where you have this environmental component. But it's like, well, all this stuff's happening, but just continue on, just proceed, just go ahead, live your life. It's like, and then the little sort of turn of a phrase at the end too that's been happening in this song, like you see black and white, I see red, rather than gray, like the gray area. And it's not blue either, so still keeping that red theme from the very beginning. I see red. Now it's at the end, it's also I see red. So it's a nice little bookend into this collage of nonsensical lyrics, stream of consciousness. So yeah, it's a hell of an interesting tune. It really is, but it seems to me this is like a little more direct than everything else that came before.
Yeah, I think the UC black and white also again ties back, just like you said at the beginning, with newspaper, right? That black and white of newspaper. But I love your gray, taking the black and white and smearing it together in the gray, like that visual as well.
Yeah, it is. All right, and then
the climax. Also, I think it's the climax. The mercury's rising.
Mm-hmm.
He's reading, he's doing, he's learning something, and that's enraging him. And the pain that is learning, and you hear it in his vocals too, right at that point. And the rain that is burning. Getty just lets go over there. He's enraged, and it feels red.
Yeah, and it's cool that lyric starts out with just the drums and the vocals.
Absolute Getty's vocals are amazing there. His acapella, it's really, it rocks with the drum. It's just amazing.
Yeah, and then the rest of the instruments come in, and I think it kind of gives more of a push. When it already has a huge push, and it gives more of a push. I think when that happens, that's how I hear it anyway. Yeah. Well, then after that, eventually we get to the outro, which I just kind of wrote in my notes and provide lyrics and fade out. But that outro really has an improvisational feel to it to me.
Yeah.
And not just music wise, but I think, Geddy seems to be kind of riffing on the vocals a little bit, just kind of however he wants. That's how it comes across, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he's playing these bass lines, right? He's slapping and popping.
Oh, yeah.
Ways
Yeah.
Have we
doing
really,
that jazz thing? Yeah.
have we ever really heard him do that before?
I only remember hearing him do that on a couple of songs, and I can't remember what other tunes it was.
Not that way. Not in a, like, it's the fusion, right? It's 83, so he's he's and he can do whatever he wants, obviously.
Strungiato, maybe.
Yeah.
That whole little thing,
Well,
Yeah.
Maybe.
that's more of a live thing than a studio thing.
Right.
Yeah, but
plus,
again, some great firsts, or new things, new
Yeah.
sounds that they're bringing to the palette for sure.
and he's playing on a Steinberger too, so he's got a new bass to play around with, right? A new
That
toy.
thing,
It's always fun,
right?
Yeah. I actually love the way the Steinberger stuff looks. I think Ned Steinberger makes really nice looking instruments.
It's a product of the time for sure, right? Like,
oh yeah,
it fits 83 squarely, literally.
Oh yeah,
right?
it's
Like
perfect.
literally squarely. It's so MTV and so Geddy with his shoulder pads and his blazer rolled up, right? And
well,
dancing around. I love it.
Like the Steinberger and the Simmons electronic drums, those are right in middle of the 80s, right mid 80s. Just it fits perfectly.
It's the Fabulous Men appearing again.
Yeah.
Well, and
the alter ego band.
Right. And the best thing about it is that they're, as far as like the musician side of Geddy and Neil using those, they're at the front of that, right? Like they're the guys that are doing it. They're not followers at all, right? And so they can claim to use that stuff as much as anybody else, right? Between Neil and Bill Bruford, like 83 using those Simmons, like no one else, even Phil Collins was a little bit behind on Genesis, whatever.
Yeah,
Phil Collins lost it a while ago.
I think those three though, Bruford, Peart, and Collins, they're the ones who at least brought them to the forefront, or to the popular music first.
Yeah, and then they just happen to like look and sound like the times, but like those guys were always at the front of. Back to Rush. Neil and Geddy were always trying out the cool new things.
Yeah, they were pioneers in that perspective.
Love it.
Yeah, it's awesome. All right. Well, do you guys have any? Should we go around any other final thoughts on the tune? Dave, you wanna start?
Yeah, I Grace Under Pressure. I have friends who malign all the synth stuff. I think that the issue at the core is just the production, that it's less about the synths and more about just the digital recording and the digital mastering that goes into that people don't like. I started listening to Rush in 85, and so I'm an unabashed fan of all the synth stuff, and Grace Under Pressure is a great record, and if you don't agree with me, I will fight you. That's all. Great record. Great song.
I'll go next. So I will agree.
You're fighting me already. You're already fighting me, Jim. This is my first time.
Because
look at you.
Obviously, I like Grace Under Pressure.
Okay.
So I think it's a fantastic album.
Me too. I have it on my foot.
There you go.
She does. All I got is a T-shirt, right?
Yeah, it's a great album.
It means a lot. It means a lot.
It does.
That's what it is.
There's great songwriting, there's great playing on it. It's enjoyable to listen to. I think it's great. I love it. I always have. This was my second Rush concert.
That's great.
Yeah. Vivian?
The ones that dropped off because of this new wave thing, they're lost.
They're missing out.
It's a very, very deep. It's dark. Okay, it's a dark album.
It is.
But if you sit and listen to it, everything has there's a lining in everything. There's a play on words on everything. You can take meanings from. You can take dark. You can take light.
Yeah.
This song has both. So no matter what everybody thinks about Grace Under Pressure, you got to look at it in a different light too. That's what they did. Everything they did, they looked in both ways. And I think it's just completely underrated.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and you're right that this, this whole synth era, when people dropped off, yes, it's different than the progressive, 70s stuff that they did, but they also evolved. And there's some amazing songwriting and amazing musicianship in this entire era. And I think that people, unfortunately, gloss over it. Yep, you're right.
Just like
Rob
said, their loss.
Yeah, exactly. Rob, any final thoughts there?
Yeah, I came up through the 80s with Rush. Moving Pictures was the first record. Power Windows was the first concert of any band ever that I went to. So my first experience in concerts was Rush and Power Windows. And so I have a really soft spot for this period of time. And I was kind of wishy-washy for a while on it. But the funny thing about Rush records, even the 80s stuff, it kind of falls out of favor, then it comes back, for people. So people who may have maybe kind of trashed it, or probably now coming around to hey, that wasn't such a bad record, So I think that's kind of something that happens with Rush in general, that certain albums kind of fall away and then you return back to them. I think even the band recognized that with certain fans. They would see out in the audience, oh yeah, he's always back with his girlfriend, new girlfriend. And so it's kind of like that with with the albums. It's you return back to these records where you're that was a blower, and then you come back to it and go, oh, this is all right,
Yeah.
It's funny how it works.
Radio City, 3 out of 5 nights. Grace Under Pressure tour.
Oh wow.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh,
It
wow.
really, yeah.
Oh yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, it was great. I saw on Grace Under Pressure, I saw them at the Texas Jam. So if anybody does not know what that is, it was a sort of day-long concert with I think 5 bands, and it was at the Cotton Bowl. Now I know the Cotton Bowl now is played at the AT&T Stadium, but the Cotton Bowl is a stadium in and of itself in Fair Park in Dallas. So it was always in the summer and about 1,000 degrees outside, literally 100 degrees outside. So that's where I saw them on Grace Under Pressure. But I stayed the whole time because they were the headline act, and there was no way I was missing that. No way for sure.
It was a special experience, I have to tell you. No matter,
Right.
it was a very, very special experience.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
I've never seen a concert like it. I've seen dozens and hundreds of concerts, and there is nothing.
Yeah.
What they put into it, musically, visually, emotionally, go find me somebody. I dare anybody to go find me somebody.
Yeah, it's true. That's awesome. All right. Well, everybody, thank you guys so much for sharing your thoughts on this excellent song.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Yes, thank you so much. And you guys listening, let us know what you think of Red Lenses. Just put it in the comments, and also if you've seen them on the Grace Under Pressure tour, since we talked about that too. Throw that in there too. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And hopefully you like what we're doing here. We got more content coming up. We're going to continue next time with Between the Wheels, and then we'll move on to some other topics. So until then, we'll see you guys later. Take it easy.